Hello everybody, I'm Petey from BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.net, and welcome back everyone to another video for our item system. So we left off, we were going ahead working on the GUI for our items. As stated before that we went ahead and added them to the actual item class. We are going to be taking it out of there, but for now I just want it in there. It just makes it really easy to keep all that stuff centralized, and we can move it out to another class later instead of having it scattered everywhere. So today I want to work on the quality property. And for that, we're going to be looking at EditorGUILayout.Popup. And we'll create a little drop-down list for these. So we're going to go ahead. I'll just close this here. I'm going to go ahead and jump into MonoDevelop, maybe. In my I don't know why I keep saying that. My IS object, I'm going to come down to the bottom. So we're displaying our icon in our quality. Right here. So instead of just putting out a label, we're going to say GUI. Nope, sorry, it's an editor. Do we have the editor namespace at the top? We do. Make sure you have that. So editor, GUI layout dot pop-up. And there's a few types here. Working with the nums or ints. We're just going to use the basic pop-up one here. And the one I want comes with a string for a label. And string array. There we go. This is the one I want. The one I'm going to be using is number 4. So it needs a string to start off with for the label. And we're just going to call it quality. We'll put a comma there. Next is an int for the selected index. And I'm just going to put that right up here for now. I know it's kind of messy, but I want to keep everything below the one line. And I forgot to actually make this bigger. All right, so here we go. Editor up there. That's what we've typed so far. Now, as I said, I want to keep everything below this line because, like I said, I'm going to be moving it out. So it's a little messy, but we'll deal with it after. So it will be private. So we'll just make it an int. And it's for the selected index. So I'm just going to say quality selected index. And even though in C#, ints default to a value of 0 if you don't initialize them at the start, I still initialize them anyway. I like just to that peace of mind. I know in the background it does go to 0, but I just like to do it anyway. All right, so the next thing we need is a string of, an array of strings. And these are going to be the name of all of the qualities that we have. Now, before I start digging into the database and grabbing all of those names, I just want to demonstrate how the pop-up works. So what I'm going to do is try to find my mouse. Here we are. And we're just going to create a string array. So string, it's an array. Let's just call it options. It's going to be equal to a new string array. And we're going to go ahead and just, like I said, make a real quickie here just to demonstrate. And we'll just do 3-letter ones. So com for uncommon, unc for uncommon, RAR for rare. We'll save that off. Make sure you put your semicolon at the end. Copy it. Put that in. Make sure you got a semicolon at the end of this line. All right, everything looks good. We're going to go ahead. We'll save this off. We'll jump back into Unity. We have no errors. So let's go ahead. We'll open that up. And now we go to create a weapon. All right, we have that drop down for the qualities now. So we can go ahead and pick this. There is one thing we're going to have to pay attention to when we move forward. Is that whatever one we pick, actually it returns an int. So we're actually saving this into whatever we selected. But the problem is that since this returns an int, we're storing it as a object of quality. If we come up to the top here. So we have to figure out some way to convert this int to a quality. And there's a few ways we can do it. If we only ever add it to our quality database, let me see if I can open that. It was W, right? Yeah. Here's what I have. We'll go ahead. We'll just name these. And we'll give them some icons. That's a Unity thing. That's not my code thing. I updated to the new version. It's nothing to do with our code, so I'm just going to ignore it. Put that there. We'll say uncommon. We'll circle here. We'll do rare. And I'm just going to keep the 3. We'll go ahead and get rid of this one. Now, the problem is when we're referring to it as the index is going to be returning what place we have here because we're just going to iterate through. But if we went ahead and let's say we had something assigned to uncommon and it stores it, but if we go ahead and delete uncommon and go ahead and make another one, it could get confused because number 2 was no longer uncommon. It would be rare. And of course, number 3 would be whatever one we needed before. Or if we added ways to organize this. So we need a way to directly link it with this. One option would be just to actually save whatever's stored here into the actual object itself, but I don't want that. I want it to be a reference simply because if we ever come in here and change it, let's say, we've got like 1,000 items in our database and, let's say 500 of them are common. And we got our nice little common icon set up and maybe the name is done. And then we realize that, hey, I've just got some really good artwork for it. I want to go ahead and change that. I want to just be able to change it here and have it automatically update through all of those items. I obviously don't want to have to go through each and every one of those items to change it. And we can do that. But there's a few ways we can do it. And we're going to look at it a little bit later on. Let's just get this part here up and running. Another thing too is what happens if you, with me, I usually end up finding out that I have some sort of typo, several hours into it. And I don't want to sit there and have to go through each and every single one trying to fix that one little typo. But let's go ahead and we're going to set it up so that we can start grabbing these names here out of the database for the quality. So we're going to head back into MonoDevelop. Now we're going to have to go ahead and get a reference to the actual database that we're going to be connecting to. So we're going to go ahead, look around up here. We don't have a constructor. And again, this is code I want to move later on. So I'm just going to go ahead, put it below the line up here. It really doesn't matter where you put it. I'm going to put it right here. So it has to be public. I guess we could make it private. We're just going to make it public in this case. This is what IS object. It will not take any variables. And I'm going to go ahead and keep all the variables that we're using down here. So it's an IS weapon database. And nope, sorry, it's the quality database. So IS quality database. And I'm just going to call it QDB. And then we're going to come up in here and actually reference this. We can actually just copy the code. Now, it seems that we're going to be referencing a lot of these databases over and over again. So we're going to want to create something a little bit later on where we can just have these static instances of these databases that we can grab, from any of our scripts. But since this is the first time we're going through it, I like just to do everything by hand. So we'll head back into Unity, open up scripts, go into the editor, quality editor, right here. And if we come down to the on enable, this is the actual line we need. And we'll also have to grab these up here as well. Actually, now think of it, we don't need this third line anymore. I'm just going to comment it out for now. Copy the 2 constants. We're going to come back into IS object. I'm going to paste them in here, but they will not be constants anymore. We'll go back in, grab this. Nope, not that line. The on enable line. Paste that in. This gets changed to QDB. And that should be okay. We should be able to connect there. And down here, I'm going to switch this now. We'll just leave it like this. And to be honest, I just like my variables at the top. So I'm going to put it right below this line that we're going to be removing. And let's go ahead, make our for loop. So we'll start off with the for, and I always call my counters CNT. We'll start off at 0. CNT is less than QDB. Dot count, then increment. And then we're going to go ahead and say options CNT is equal to QDB dot get, and we pass in an int, which of course is CNT, and we want to get the name. And I just realized we haven't actually set the size of the length, of our array, which is up here, and I actually called it options. I like it singular, honestly. So I'm going to change it back to option, which automatically updates here. And right before we do the for line, I'll go ahead and say option is equal to new string. And that string length will be QDB dot count. There we go. Get rid of the extraneous lines, save that off. Jump back into Unity. Warnings have gone away. We'll go ahead. We'll start it back up. Now we hit create. And there we go. We've gone through and it's grabbed them all. It grabs them in the order that they're actually stored in the database. So go to the databases. Open it up. There we go. And of course you can pick one. And let's go ahead. We'll do the save button so that we actually have one saving to the database. We'll look at some problems we're going to have. And then in the next video, we'll look at ways we can solve it. So do we have anything here yet? No, we don't. All right. Well, we hit save, doesn't actually do anything. So let's go ahead and enable that save feature. So the save button is in the editor script, which is not loaded up right now. So I'll have to come back in, go into the scripts, editors, object, and well, we'll be in the details. All right, so we come down, here are our buttons. Here's the save button. Now, if we look at the way that we actually have IS objects set up, it actually takes, for the quality, an actual ISQuality. So we actually have to pass it an object. Another way we could do this is just to store that int that we're selecting. But the problem with that is, as I said before, is if we start moving items around in that little database that we're making, the index is going to get all screwed up. Now, we could just set it up to where things can't be moved. So once you add them, you can't delete them. You can change them, but you can never truly delete them. That'd be one way to get around it. Another way is to add a unique ID to each one, and we could just reference it that way. But I still like the idea of storing a reference to the actual quality itself. But we've got a little bit of time before we have to cross that bridge. So let's just go ahead and have it save that quality. So right off the bat, come back over here to the, not the quality database. I think I'm done with that. What changes did I make here? I don't think I saved anything, right? Well, I'm not going to, oh, I commented out a couple lines. Well, that one line, that's fine. Well, for completeness, I'm going to go ahead and do it again because it will be going up onto my Git. So might as well make sure it's right. So this line here, and just to make sure it still works. That's the wrong one. We actually want this one. Yeah, it's still connecting just fine. So I'll comment it out here and I'll just delete it later. So save button. Right here, the details. So we're storing everything in a temp weapon. And down here, right before we set it to null, we want to save it. So we need to grab, again, a reference to that database. We should already have for the weapons. I'm just trying to think what I called it. Looks like I called it database. Yep, it's an IS weapon database. So I just called it database. Database.add. We're going to add the temp weapon. Go ahead, save that off. Then we go ahead and null it out. So if we go ahead, create one. I'm just going to call it knife. Let's give it a few values here. I'm just going to increment them one at a time. We'll go ahead and we'll save. And if we come back into our database, we've got one now, element 0. And here it is, the knife. We did not set an icon for it. We do not have that set up yet. I'm going to switch that around. I want the name first. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you see here, the quality is not saving because we don't have it set up to save it. So let's go ahead. We'll do that next. Actually, switch this around. I want the name first. It's a minor thing, but it's just one of those things that will annoy me if I don't fix it. And for the GUI, I actually do have the name first. It's up here. There we go. I just want the name first. Oh, welcome to the crash report. I'm just going to go ahead and reopen it. And it looks like switching that around screwed things up. So we're going to go ahead, delete it. Go ahead and clear this out. And let's see if we can't get that working right. So we're going to go ahead and open up the inspector again. Or sorry, our custom editor. And I'll do like before. Oh, we're not grabbing here. That broke. Really? Just by switching this around? Well, let's just go ahead. We'll add the quality ones again. I'm not sure why that got screwed up. Common. Give it the first one. Second one will be uncommon. And I like to keep it capitalized, at least the first letter. And rare. All right. So we've got 3 again. Let's open up the big one. All right, they're back. So we'll go ahead and name. And 1, 2. We'll go ahead. Change that. So 3, 4, 5. We'll hit save. We'll come in and look at the weapon database. All right, well, we got back to right before where we crashed. I just want to try that again just to see if it crashes again. I'm not sure why it did. I'm thinking it's because the way these are serialized. So if I say 0 there, we go ahead and clear the database out. Come back in. Save it. Unity's not, oh, see, Unity crashed again. Okay, it's because it's the way it's serialized. So I'm actually going to save it like that. Come back in. If my databases are cleared, that's fine. They are. So when it crashes, it's clearing out my database. And that could be absolutely devastating if we have like 1,000 things in your database and that happens. Something I'll have to take a look into a little bit later on. But for now, it's pretty easy. I can just go ahead and add these again. Common, uncommon, and again. And rare. Square. I just like something different for each one. Check mark and a circle. There we go. Big guy. Let's see if she crashes. And we'll make it rare this time. 3, 4, and 5. We'll go ahead, we'll save it. Check out our weapon database. Okay, well, let's go ahead now. We're going to change that to store the actual quality. So we'll head back into our scripts. And let's see, which one am I going to need? I'm going to need the actual database one. Right here. The editor. And we're going to have to, before we actually save it, we're going to have to go ahead and look up to see what that index is that we selected for the quality type. Go ahead and retrieve that and then assign it here. So that means we actually have to save the index here. Okay. So it's going to be public. It's going to return an int. And it's going to say selected quality ID. And I'm actually going to use a get on this, just so I don't have to use the brackets at the end. Return selected. Oh, it's quality selected index. There we go. Head back into this one. Make an ISQuality database. QDB. And as you see, we keep referencing the same database, so we've got to make it static somewhere, which is fine. We can make a manager for it. Since we have everything down here for it, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this. Paste it in here, and I just want the strings above it. And now we can say that the temp weapon dot quality is equal to the QDB dot get. And it takes an int. So we're going to pass in my, was it selected temp weapon dot selected quality ID. And we're going to get back. So we can get the name, the icon, and the string. We should be able to get the quality, correct? Let me come up to the quality here. It is public. We should be able to grab the quality. So temp weapon quality is equal to, I'm not sure why quality isn't showing up there. I always hate when IntelliSense just doesn't quite work out. I'm going to save that off. We'll jump in, see what errors we get. Let's see right here. Just not any definition of quality. Oh, what did I do wrong? Put a line in here. So temp weapon quality is equal to, go to the database, which is a quality database, right? Correct. And the reference I want to get is what we selected. Make sure that's returning an int. Right down here. Of course, we could just have it down here that it automatically assigns it every frame. And it is in the inspector, and it probably is easier, but I just want to get this other way working. And then we'll add that one line down here. So I just want to see what I did wrong. And whoops, it's because what I'm doing is I'm going into the quality database. I want to actually fetch the quality out. And qualities only have a name and an icon. My bad. I was actually trying to access the quality within a quality, and there's no such thing as that. So we'll save that off. Let me see. Argument. No reference. I'm going to go ahead and save here. IS object. Where is that error? Just clear them out. I don't think it's an error. I'm getting quite a few of them updated to the latest Unity. Okay, so we got those are all still there. I'm going to go ahead and zero this out. And let's go ahead, we'll try this out. So we'll go ahead, create weapon. I'm going to pick uncommon. I'm not going to bother playing with the other fields. As we've seen, they work. And we'll go ahead. That's something we got to switch over later. I have to switch those over to int fields instead of being strings. This is already getting a little bit long, so we'll do that in another one. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Close that down, go into our database. And here we go, it's saved. And take note here that it does save the actual icon as well. So if I go ahead and open that quality database up, and I want the quality database, not the weapon one. And pay attention over here. So if I go ahead and change the name to say uncommons, it automatically updates. You notice it's keeping track of it. So we'll go ahead, we'll switch this over to UI Sprite. And it changes here too. So that means that all of our items that we create, that they're linked to whatever's in the database. Now that does not take into account if I went ahead and deleted this. We won't do it now. We'll do it. Well, let's go ahead. We delete this. It's still there, but it's not in the database anymore. So if we switch this to rare Z, it doesn't affect it. But I want to do something with this where it checks to see if this does not exist, or if it exists in the database. If it doesn't, automatically pick your default one or have some default set up, in which case I want it to be, I guess in this case, common. So if something gets destroyed for some reason, we still have it. And I still don't have a way to reorder things in here. So we'll go rare, we'll go uncommon. Go ahead and grab a picture. Or a sprite, I guess you should say. And of course, we notice here that it's no longer linked. It's not the same object. Even though it has the same name, it is considered different. But let's go ahead, we'll do that one example of how to do it without having to get the reference again, which would mean moving this to the outside. We're not going to need this just yet. In here. So we could come down here and say that quality is equal to QDB. We'll just copy the line out of here. And we'll paste it right in here. Except now we're not going to do temp weapon. We could do it like this. Let's see. We made a reference to it out here, right? So we do get, yep. This should also work. The downside is that it reassigns it keeps looking up and reassigning every frame. Now, to be honest, it's just in the editor. This is not going to affect gameplay at all, simply because it's in the editor. And I don't think that's that big of a drawback. And it does cut down on quite a bit of lines of code, because now we can come in here and all that stuff we just did with all this, we can comment it all out. We still want to add, we don't need this, any of this. So we'll go ahead and comment it all out. And provided there's no errors. And of course, starting up does nothing. Let's open up that editor. Oh, now you want to be difficult. You won't even open the editor. All right, we'll go ahead, we'll create a weapon. Save it off. There we go. And it saved as rare. So either way works. Pick the one that works for you. I'm probably going to stick with the second one that we just did because it's only one extra line of code. I'm going to leave that there for at least for the committing to my Git repo, so I have at least one version with it in. But I'm probably going to stick with this because, like I said, it's only in the editor. There's not that big of an overhead. And it's just nice because it's one line of code. And we will be moving it out of this anyway. But anyway, this one's getting a little bit long. Go ahead, let me know down below what you thought of this so far. Go ahead, give the video a thumbs up if it's helped you at all. And of course, share it on your social networks, as that really does help me out and the channel. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.